Welcome to NDTV. 2017 was a historic year for the real estate sector and home buyer all across the country. While the sector itself was grappling with financial hurdles, the government implemented Real Estate Regulation Act, thus giving a much needed protection to the vulnerable home buyer. By the end of 2017, the market completely turned over its head by demonetization and then the GST. That was also a punch in the stomach for the sector. And now, as we approach the end of the last quarter of the financial year, the situation seems a bit stabilized. Although there were no interest cuts by the RBI and though the budget also largely ignored the sector, the property market has shown a shift in buying patterns from the investor and speculator to the end user, from luxury to affordable, and these have become the drivers of the sector. If you are wondering if this is the time to buy that property you have been eyeing, then it could possibly be. Why? Well, there are multiple factors leading to that, and to discuss this, we have with us Mr. Anurag Rastogi. He's Member Executive Management, HDFC ERGO General Insurance. We have Sameer Jasuja with us. He's founder and CEO of PE Analytics Private Limited. Colonel T.P. Tyagi, he's president of AOA Federation, which is an organization of resident bodies in Ghaziabad. Vivek Gandhi also joins us. He's Executive Director, TDI Infratech. And also with us is Vikram Nath. He's Director, Logix Group. Welcome, gentlemen, to this panel discussion.
Thank you.
So we are almost about to approach the end of the financial year, and it's almost been a roller coaster ride. I'm going to start with you, Sameer, because we want a slight overview of what it's been this year, and also what you see in the future.
Sure. It has been a completely roller coaster ride for the real estate industry for the last 2 years, especially 2016 and 17. And as you rightly pointed out, demonetization, GST, and so on and so forth, we've really been hit badly. However, now I feel that the worst is really behind us. I think the steps taken by the government are fantastic for this sector. Especially with respect to RERA and even GST for that matter. RERA is going to bring about the transparency that was much needed in this sector. Unfortunately, there was a lot of real estate development that started way back in 2012, where a lot of developers launched thousands and thousands of projects, and that led to a lot of execution challenges, and that led to consumers not really getting their homes in the right time. And RERA is going to come about and fix all those problems. Developers will be more transparent now. Monies will be transferred to escrow, which is much needed for this sector. In addition to that, the steps that the government have taken with respect to GST, with respect to all the benefits that they're giving in the affordable housing sector, it's a real shot in the arm for creating housing for all. And I think the worst really is behind us, and now with so much ready stock also getting ready, the consumers have a choice to make, and there are no execution challenges that they have to face. Prices have come down substantially over the last 2 years, so it's probably the best time for any end user to come and buy.
So, right, you feel the climate is right. Mr. Gandhi, Sameer just said that this is the right situation, and that the developers are also over most of it, and the worst is over yet. Yeah. As a developer, is it really over for you? Are you guys ready, and now you don't feel that pinch anymore?
I will share a different perspective to it. Last 3 to 4 years, it would be called as an inflation-free period for real estate, which doesn't happen anywhere across. So the property that we used to sell 3 years back.
All the inflation happened after 2004 to 2008, I guess.
Yeah, so it's stabilized, so it's not happening anymore. Other good part of the thing is, apart from the statutory regulation that have come up, that's a great move. Now, as a matter of fact, how does the developer and the user, now stepping up of end user and the properties. One different thing that I would like to share is that in last 3 to 4 years, what I see is that a great development of the network and infrastructure. Roads, highways, metros, all cities across have started and now attaining a stage of completion. So projects which used to be far flung have become connected.
Right.
So this connected phenomena and the development of infrastructure across these projects have brought different clusters. Right. So you have got more habitable places. Property rates have bottomed down, whether it be the secondary market or be the fresh market. So nothing best. People who are end user, I believe nothing better would come from here on. It is stepping up on the growth path, both on the rates as well as the appreciations.
So, Vikram, it seems like Mr. Gandhi makes it sound like that the buyer is in a candy store right now and everything looks very appealing. But is it actually, what kind of response are you seeing from the buyer? Is he even interested in buying the candy? Are you getting responses?
Absolutely, without doubt, it's a very buyer-centric market now. The government has brought in all the favorable policies in the favor of buyers, and buyer is protected under the RERA gambit, and moreover the home loan rates have gone down, and ready to move in properties available at with no GST impact. So probably this is the best time for any buyer to buy the property right now.
All right. So you feel that this is the best time, but Mr. Rastogi, are we as safe and secure in terms of the buyer? Is he getting that protection? Because earlier the buyer was so vulnerable when he used to go and buy. I think he was just taking all his money with zero protection. Right now, what is the situation?
I think the situation remains more or less same. And as I heard the speaker, the government has done some extraordinary things in terms of customer protection and bringing transparency into the sector. One piece in the jigsaw puzzle that is missing is the protection part. So much of money is riding on it, and if you look at a home, home is one of the biggest investment that anybody does.
Absolutely.
But protection levels are very, very low. According to a rough estimate, there is no official, no scientific measurement of this, but less than 1% of people only buy home insurance. And cost of homes upwards of 50 lakh, 1 crore and more. This is a huge risk that they're carrying. And this is something that we were expecting the government to come in and pitch in, but it has not happened. We continue to hope that the government will support
the buyer habits are very risky even while buying, and after buying the product as well, he is not taking any insurance. So there is absolutely, he tends to stay away from protection. Colonel Tyagi, there is a feeling that the buyer himself has been very irresponsible over the years while buying and post the when he makes the purchase as well. But after RERA, are you feeling secure now as far as at least going and buying the product is concerned? Are you feeling secure?
No.
Not yet?
No.
Why?
Buyer was not irresponsible. Buyer was exploited. Now I wish to say...
Buyer was exploited, but I was also a buyer, and sometimes I feel without even thinking I bought stuff. And real estate, I'm saying.
Yeah, now I am telling you that home buyer is convenient on 2 counts. First count is RERA, as everybody has said, and second count is that there is FPC. FPC means Forum for People's Collective Effort. It is a home buyers body at national level because it has already been constituted like a company, and we implemented in the Bombay High Court.
Colonel Tyagi, I have one question for you. Do you feel the market right now, because I'm talking about the future, the forward, the present and the forward, do you feel the buyer is now in a better situation? Do you feel protected now?
Yes. Now onwards. Leave aside the ongoing project. Now onward, the buyer will be okay, he will be happy. The reason is this, that now if they exceed the time limit, they will have to pay heavy penalty. Hence, only good and nice buyers are coming in the picture.
Because that is, as a buyer myself and as a person who's worked in this sector, I feel that this is one big protection that the buyer has got now, and now the buyer is much more secure. Mr. Gandhi, you have
that, see, there are general hygiene factors, because what projects started a couple of years back, 7-8 years back, and you would see that last 3-4 years, not many new projects have been launched. And all responsible developers.
Everybody is cautious.
Yes, they are cautious. The developers, with even the statutory regulations and otherwise the general market perception of a developer has become more responsible. They want to complete the ongoing project first and then touch anything new, which would reflect into the position where tomorrow, when you are there in the market, there are a couple of good properties which is almost completed or about to get completed. So it is pick and choose. So you have no risks involved in it. You are paying a fair price for a fair product which you can actually see, observe and feel.
Right.
So that is the comfort.
Right. We just would be going into break. Before that, Mr. Rastogi, just one small comment, because as Mr. Gandhi just said that everybody is cautious. So in buying, everybody is cautious, but you still feel that after we bought it, we are not.
So I told you, less than 1% people are buying home insurance. Look at what happened in Chennai floods.
And this is like a crore rupee worth of a product that I buy.
Absolutely.
And I take
but you're not taking any cover for that. Look at what happened in Chennai floods. So many houses were damaged so badly. If you look at any of those catastrophes, you will see that while the economic losses are huge, insured losses are hardly anywhere between 6 to 9%. That means more than 90% people lose their hard earned money because of these natural catastrophes. But they're not waking up to buying insurance.
That's because we are eternally
Just add to
optimistic.
that,
Yes.
Absolutely.
There is one positive lining for all the insurance companies, that typically you have a lot of group housing units and projects that are getting completed and have started, the process has started, and you will probably see 3x or 4x of the supply that used to get completed earlier in the next 2 years. So if Gurgaon used to deliver 15,000 units, Gurgaon is going to deliver 35,000 units in the next 2 years, year on year, right? All these are typically group housing complexes.
So that is bulk.
That's
coming
bulk.
in.
More importantly, all group housing complexes through the RWAs go and buy insurance for the whole complex in itself.
Okay.
Right.
So that is a big positive, and that's why individual people in gated communities do not buy insurance, because they get an umbrella cover which they take by paying the maintenance charges, and part of those maintenance charges goes towards insuring the entire project.
Right. So if the
All that we have a small clarification.
we'll do one thing.
I will
We'll
tell
do
you.
one thing. We will come
Sure.
back to this discussion because we do have to take a break right now. So as you can see, the debate is just warming up. We have to take a break. We'll come back with more. Welcome back. We are talking about the real estate and whether it is the right time to buy that property or not. And I have a very big panel with me. So we were talking about the home insurance. It seems, Mr. Gandhi, you have some contrary views.
There's this difference. I am an user as well as a developer, so I know the property insurance that we take
Yes.
for any built up property where possessions have been given is for the property. Any damage, any natural calamity or anything else
Right.
which happens is covered. The insurance that Mr. Sogi was talking about is surely as a user also. When I take a home loan, I have to take a policy, and most of the banks and financial institutions press on that
Right.
because of the fact if tomorrow something happens, I don't have to return the loan.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are
because
two
my
different
house
scenarios.
is mortgaged to them.
Absolutely. So mortgage to them. So tomorrow I don't have to return the loan. But the property insurance is for the maintenance or the safety of the property.
Right.
And both the things are becoming more and more essential. No bank's financial institution gives you a loan without you procuring a personal loan for that for insurance for that loan.
Right.
So I think both the things are
So
covered.
yes, so practices
can I
of
just comment?
safe habits are being propagated.
Yeah, so can I just comment? So while I agree that these large complexes, the insurance is being bought, but there is a huge protection gap. Typically, the insurance that gets bought is only for the cost of construction of that property. Now look at the multi-storied building of 10 stories, and something happens. If there is a force majeure and the building collapses. The cost of the property that you have paid could be 1 crore of rupees, but the cost of construction of your unit could be only 15 or 20 lakh rupees. You bought insurance for only that 15 or 20 lakh rupees. That is definitely not going to be sufficient. The redevelopment is still, in the Indian conditions, is a very, very long, drawn out process, and it takes quite some time.
I have this, so I'm going to bring you in here, Vikram. I have often thought that why can't developers have a good dialogue with the buyers? You know, when a buyer comes to buy the house, he usually has no idea what he's getting into. So things like these, this is, of course, it's not going to affect you, your profits, but this is like an additional thing that you, a service you give to a buyer where you educate him about these things. Have you guys ever thought about it, like telling them about these things, that this will save you?
Now these days the things have changed. The developers have become very cautious, and now since the buyers is a very buyer-centric market, so every time buyer walks into the office to buy a flat, he's given all the details about the projects, about the insurances. Everything is told now, because under the RERA gambit you have to be very, very careful and very, very honest.
No, what is binding on you, definitely you are.
Yes.
But an extra thing, I always feel that there should be an extra information coming from, which will set you apart, won't it?
Absolutely. Now I think the time has come for a forum to be devised where buyers and developer together they join a forum a common forum to address their problems and come out with a solution.
I am telling that in the multi-story buildings, most of the developers have not provided the RCC shear wall, reinforced cement concrete shear wall, which is necessary for protecting the earthquake forces.
Right.
Similarly, on the 31st floor, if there is a outbreak of fire, there are no hydraulic platforms available now at present. So, it is the duty of the developer to provide insurance for every home buyer, and it is also covered in the RERA Act. It is covered in the RERA Act. So, it should be done by the developer right in the beginning. Why should individual home buyers go for insurance?
Absolutely.
No, I think the stage is now changed. The time has come when we should not be on the opposite side of the table.
We're on the same
But
side
the
of the
buyers
buyer-
have been saying that for years.
Absolutely. So it
But
is a
we
lead.
have to be together.
It is a lead that all good responsible developers have to come in, because now a stage has been set up where probably you would see over some years, 1 or 2 years, when things get stabilized, possessions happen. So again, that trust building bridges have to come up, which is somehow
which
we feel that
which is
it
starting
is
now,
yeah,
which is
that-
starting now.
which is starting now. The positive shoots are happening, and builders are going all out because they have to give possession, they have to inhabit their townships. So they're doing a lot of other efforts also, not
Right.
just insurance protection is my part, fire safety is the other, STPs, landscaping.
Right, Sameer, as an independent observer, I would like to ask you, because the financial things aside, do you feel the best practices are, we expect that to come in? Are they, now there is a trend towards, because RERA is there hanging on the neck, the developers are moving towards best practices or no?
Well, it's very early
And that
days
is in
yet.
terms of construction as well as I said,
I would-
advising and
I would like to
educating
say
the
it's
buyer.
early days yet. I think what developers are focusing on right now is past executions,
Right.
because
stressed.
that's a noose around their neck, if I may
Right.
choose the right words, because they have to execute them so that they don't come under the RERA ambit or they don't get penalized because of the RERA laws. So at this point in time, new launches have come down by 90% across India.
Right.
So we are going to start a new era of under construction very soon, maybe in a year or two, because right now there is too much ready stock also available in the market, which is a big plus for the end user and the buyer, because he doesn't really need to worry about whether he'll get his flat on time or not, and which is the most important concern.
Right.
And the other concerns follow, right? As far as you're talking about following the best practices, I think the developers have been following reasonably good practices when it comes to the structure of the project. We've really not seen any structures come down in NCR, at least in the last 25 years that I know. So that,
Not the whole structures.
well, do you know of any building that's really come down?
There were a few instances of balconies and all that,
But that's
this is not
that's
the forum,
not
it was
group housing
minor.
development
Yes,
organized,
exactly.
So I think that on the structural side, they've done a reasonably decent job. What they've not really been doing is on the finishing side, which actually costs the maximum money, is where a lot of compromises have been made.
Right.
Now, hopefully, with RERA coming in, you have to give a warranty for 5 years on all the products that you're putting in within the apartment, whether it's structure or the finished products that you're putting in. So now going forward, because and thanks to RERA, I don't think any corners will be cut in any area. And developers are taking under RERA, taking an extraordinary extra amount of time as a precaution, because they don't want to be penalized. The penalties are way too heavy. So because of that, the consumers can rest easy that what they buy they will get.
Right.
But that is with respect to all the new projects that will start coming in and getting launched from 2019
Right.
or 18 onwards.
Right. It is heartening to see a nod of heads together on at least one thing, and that is, and it gives us also immense pleasure to see that the buyer is so protected now. I sometimes feel jealous of the buyer of 2018 because I didn't have that protection. Colonel Tyagi, do you also sometimes
yes,
feel so?
I am with you, because the penalties are very high, 10% of the cost of the project for not doing the work in time. Hence, the buyer is satisfied, but this is for the new project.
Exactly.
There are about 17,000 projects at present going on. They are ongoing projects. What is to be done for them?
Well, sir, there are adequate penalties that will be given under RERA as well, because they have to come under the ambit of RERA. But what those penalties exactly are going to be specific to each project.
But they have not yet come under the ambit of RERA till today. Most of them, particularly I say in Noida, Ghaziabad, there are very many ongoing projects which have not got themselves registered with
Projects
RERA.
that have managed to get some kind of occupancies, but
Yeah.
there are still a hell of a
Everyone
lot of
else has
projects
to.
that have
There is
not
a problem.
to be
This
See, it is,
occupancy is the biggest problem, because occupancy certificate means that you provide light, water, sanitation, and then you say now it is ready for
you have to
occupancy.
start
Colonel,
somewhere.
95% completion of the project means only after that you can apply for an occupancy certificate. Now coming to this point, and generally 40-45% money goes into a project only into the civil structure. 50% or more than 50% goes into the services, infrastructure, STPs, water, transformers, lift and those things. And you can apply for occupation certificate only after you have spent 95% or completed 95%.
Right.
Coming back to the protection gap that we were talking about, now some of these things are really positive. Only that small piece in the jigsaw puzzle, if we can fix it. And when it comes to protection gap, I'll talk about 4 different, very distinct areas where a significant protection gap exists. One, Vivek very rightly pointed out, the loan that I have taken ₹1 crore of loan, and if something were to happen to me, my family needs to live in peace, and that needs to be protected properly. Second is the insurance for the property, the asset that I am buying. Force majeure happen, the catastrophes happen, and things happen, so that needs to be protected. The third and the most important, which RERA has actually addressed, is the title. You know, so many title disputes are pending in the courts when the buyer. So I don't see that there was any wrongdoing by anybody, but there are disputes. There was some issue with the title. Now the RERA says title insurance is going to be mandatory. This is going to really provide a lot of bridge that protection gap for the buyer. And the fourth important part is, while most developers put in the best of the design, put the best of the infrastructure, but design defects do happen.
We are kind of short of time, but
One point, sir, insolvency. Now this insolvency is again a big problem. Isme the biggest loser is the home buyer, because he is an unsecured creditor.
Right.
That point gets covered through the escrow mechanism that is set under RERA.
Yeah, right. As he says, if the money is there,
Yeah,
then,
so then it
they
is.
can be at least refunded. Anyway, one thing that I am glad to see that all panelists were one voice on, and that was the protection of the buyer. The buyer at least has some protective cover now, and that gives us immense happiness, because as journalists, this is one point we had been very vocal about, and finally the buyer, the new buyer, has that protection. But the buyer needs to be cautious too. If you're buying a product which is basically a culmination of all your life savings, then you need to be sensible about it. Get extra protection for yourself and be cautious. Thank you for watching.